It's Friday, gonna get down on Friday. Everybody's looking forward to the weekend, partying, yeah, partying, yeah, fun. Looking forward to the weekend. You didn't do the thing.
You know, I was ready for it, and then I lost all respect for you.
Well, welcome back to StillerBros at the Movies, where today we are getting a little freaky.
Or freakier, as it would be.
Freakier Friday. So, 22 years ago, Disney was on a bit of a hot streak remaking a couple of their classic movies, and one of them was their 1970s film, Freaky Friday.
And in 2003, Disney kind of had a pretty good summer with the releases of Finding Nemo, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Freaky Friday, which was not a massive hit, but was a bigger hit than anybody was expecting.
And a lot of that was mostly the fact that it was the movie that basically cemented Lindsay Lohan as a star. Don't get me wrong, The Parent Trap was the movie that made Lindsay Lohan a household name, but then it was basically the 1-2 punch of this and Mean Girls the next year that basically was like, okay, this Lindsay Lohan is going places. Particularly because Mean Girls, which was from the same director as Freaky Friday, Mark Waters, essentially became the definitive movie of Lindsay Lohan's career.
Yeah, and then obviously, and we're not really going to talk about this for the reason that it's her personal life and it's not important to what's going on here. Lindsay Lohan's career kind of spiraled and fizzled out, and now she's kind of on an upswing, which is fun.
You're saying we might have a Lohan-assance on our hands? I could go for a Lohan-assance. I'd be fine with that.
You got to make your gumbo. Got to put some of that Lohan-assance in there. Get it on. How spicy? I want it 2 redheads.
Essentially, Lindsay Lohan has gone from being nowhere to suddenly doing a few Netflix movies. She cameoed in the Mean Girls remake, and now this.
And they just recently announced she's got a Hulu series coming, so...
But Freaky Friday is one of those movies that's interesting for people of our generation because it is a surprisingly good movie. It shockingly holds up for 2003, except for the kind of, let's call it, squishy elements when it comes to how they handle the Chinese characters who are the inciting incident to how the actual plot happens.
But the Chinese stereotypes in it are just so cringy.
They introduce them with a gong sound.
Oh, yeah.
They use the gong sound so much. At the end, when they switch back, there's a fucking gong sound effect.
Yeah, so, other than that, the movie kind of holds up. So, Jamie Lee Curtis, who obviously co-starred in Freaky Friday, became a pretty big deal in the last couple of years. She's kind of on her I just won my Oscar, I'm taking over the fucking world tour.
Basically, Jamie Lee Curtis has just in the last couple of years gone from this actor who is reliably great in just about every role she's been in to, okay, we can respect her as an artist now, let's give her whatever she wants. So, The Bear and Borderlands. And she would have been in One Piece Season 2 if scheduling conflicts didn't get in the way. But then there's this, Freakier Friday.
This is, for all intents and purposes, a Jamie Lee Curtis passion project.
Because essentially, look, here's the thing about early aughties comedies. They always had, like, sequel setups for a joke, but they were never meant to have sequels. Especially not 20 years later legacy sequels. Like, how do you do a 20 years later sequel to a body swap comedy?
Yes, the opening shot is a close-up of a newspaper that says is president, and then we widen out and we're like, forget all that, and then the mom switcheroos with the dog, and I don't need to tell you what happens next.
Actually, John, I think you're gonna need to just make the first one again.
Yeah, but the thing about this is also the fact that it's kind of Parent Trap and Freaky Friday. If you just like smashed them together, wiped away the blood, this is what you would get with the plot.
Especially because the biggest change between Freaky Friday and Freakier Friday is the fact that it's not just Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis switching bodies again, especially because 20 years later that would feel almost a little too redundant. Instead, now both of them are playing teenagers trapped in the bodies of adult women. And the teenagers in question are Sophia Hammonds, who is best known to people of the target audience of this movie as the token girl character from Under Wraps. And no, we don't know that because we actually watched the Under Wraps remake. We know that because our favorite podcast did a whole episode on it and singled her out specifically.
Yeah, Sophia Hammonds, who plays Amy, she's great. I would not be surprised if she's a huge star 5 or 10 years from now.
Thank you very much, Tony.
And Julia Butters is the other half of the teenage duo that is taking on the roles of Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis's characters for most of the movie.
Yeah, with Julia Butters making everybody feel old because, holy crap, the little girl who was helping motivate Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is now almost an adult.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But other than that, the movie is kind of a different creative team, mostly because that creative team kind of is probably working on other stuff. Did you know Mark Waters is just making random movies now, and which is probably just the way he was doing it beforehand, but I didn't think he was still doing big budget stuff after Vampire Academy flopped.
This time around we have Nisha Ganatra, whose biggest role as a director was the Mindy Kaling vehicle Late Nights from a few years ago.
And she's probably known to more learned film critics than us for her directorial debut, Chutney Popcorn. But don't know much about that except for the fact that it's one of those indie movies that's very autobiographical to the point that the director stars as essentially themselves.
Yeah, but another thing about the crew is that Jamie, like we said, this is a passion project for Jamie Lee Curtis. This is Jamie Lee Curtis's first time producing a movie.
Mostly because this is yet another thing where Jamie Lee Curtis seems to get what she wants. Jamie Lee Curtis wanted Christopher Guest. She married Christopher Guest. She wanted to play the mom on The Bear. Guess who got a call from her agent without prompting?
And she wanted to make Freaky Friday, Friday 2. Well, guess who got on the phone with Bob Iger the second she realized that Lindsay Lohan was old enough to have a teenage daughter?
So, yeah. What else is there to say? Freakier Friday, 20 years later, are we the target demo? Hell no.
No. We were not teenage girls who saw this movie in theaters.
And we are definitely not teenage girls now. Do they even still call that particular age group teenagers anymore?
I don't know. And
Jesus Christ, we're old.
So 2 32-year-old men are about to go walk into a theater for a movie that was targeted at teen girls.
Should we probably have seen Nobody 2 instead? Maybe. Honestly, I was really kind of worried about this until we suddenly started hearing people be like, yeah, it's about as good as the first one, which is great because the first one was shockingly good. We rewatched it for the first time in 20 years just last week to kind of get a feel of this, and it is shocking how good it is, and it's mostly carried by the performances of Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis. And the fact that those two are back for this, well, you know, that's kind of the good thing about this. This could have been easily just, it's the same basic thing with a different cast. Maybe one of them shows up for a legacy thing, but nope, it's Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan doing their thing again, to the point that basically all the advertisements are built off the fact that, hey, it's Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan again, only this time they get to spend the entire movie together instead of just whole chunks of it.
Yeah.
But either way, we'll see what we think of it, because it seems like a pretty run-of-the-mill comedy, and hopefully that's exactly what we get out of it. And we'll see all about that soon after the jump. Oh, that didn't feel right.
No, that wasn't right at all.
Okay. So in the words of one Mr. Walter Elias Disney, yeah, that'll work.
That was so sweet. It's like the first one where it is very formulaic and very cookie cutter by the numbers, but what makes it work is the execution.
Yeah, it's very much a case of these actors pull it off. This writer knows exactly what to do with this. This director knows what beats to hit and how to hit them. This is a very serviceable comedy of the style that they are attempting to emulate. It's nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it would be nice if something like this could have like a bigger meaning to it, but sometimes we just need a sweet little family comedy about people coming to view their differences as just differences and nothing more.
That's the thing about this, is that, like last time, we're seeing a comedy in theaters, guys.
Yeah.
We got to see a comedy, which is amazing to us that we got to see a comedy, and people were in the theater with us laughing.
Yeah, and it's just a thing of look, comedies in theaters are not as dying of a breed as many people would like to believe they are, as we even said last time, but they are still very rare unless they're like legacy sequels like this and The Naked Gun.
But good comedy sequels, they're very rare and they need to be supported. So let's get into this a little bit.
If there's one reason to see this movie, it's just like last time. Again, we're going to say that a lot. Just like last time, it's going to be the performances of all the actors who are part of this little switcheroo.
Julia Butters and Sophia Hammonds especially really shocked me at how great they were in this.
You don't expect them to get the lion's share of the acting work, considering how little the promotion has actually built up around them. Like, you don't see what's going on there, mostly because, once again, the focus of the advertisements has mostly just been, look, we got Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan together again, and they're gonna do like wacky rom-com stuff and parent trap their parents and stuff like that.
But the girls, they have chemistry together. They're great playing these characters, and they get probably the brunt of the emotional core of the movie just from the fact that they're playing the grown-ups for most of the movie.
And the fact that when it does come down to the emotional moments, it is very much played well. I think they picked the right actors for these parts, considering what they needed to pull off. Though I do kind of question why they cast 2 American actors to play prominent British roles, but Sophia Hammonds and Manny Jacinto's British accents are not nearly as bad as most Americans doing British accents could have been in the situation that they're in.
More Bridget Jones, less Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah.
But Manny Jacinto is really great in this too.
Manny Jacinto basically playing the similar role to what Mark Harmon did in the first movie, in essentially being like the perfect guy for Lindsay Lohan's character, who just wants to understand why his fiancée is acting like a crazy person, but also wants to be understanding and not worry about everything too much. He just wants to like sit back, relax, and marry his fiancée.
Yeah. And then obviously we have to bring up Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis, who I don't think we need to say they were great in this,
because they're just consistently great in so much of what they've done. And once again, the original movie for this and Mean Girls was basically the 1-2 punch of, hey, maybe Lindsay Lohan's got some gas in the tank to keep on going. And this might be the thing that basically cements the Lohanescence, as it were.
yeah, it definitely feels like we're in a Lohanescence. When you see her on screen, it feels like, oh yeah, she's great. She's a good actor. We need to see her in more stuff, please.
So maybe if they want to do something with The Parent Trap 2, nah, it wouldn't work.
No.
Natasha Richardson's gone, and I don't know if the
I don't think anybody
I don't think it would work with just one parent. But if Lindsay Lohan could get some more work, it would be really nice to see her do more. Like, this really reminds you just how good Lindsay Lohan is when she's given the right material.
Yeah.
And also, we might not be the best people to speak for this, but I really appreciated the fact that there are a lot of female names in the credits for this.
Yeah, there's
writer, director, composer, editor,
producers, there were a lot of female voices in front of and behind the camera. This is definitely a female-driven movie, and it's nice to get that diversity, because I've said it before and I'll say it 100 times. I'm sick of seeing the same 5 white guys on screen in movies over and over again.
And yet you'd still watch Pedro Pascal in anything.
I will. I really will.
But it's a case of this movie really did feel like something that the people who watched the first movie felt some form of nostalgia for it, felt what the emotions of the movie were supposed to be, and we're like, let's make that. Let's do a modern interpretation of that.
I mean, one thing I liked about this is that they didn't really do callbacks.
Yeah, like the closest thing to a callback is the fact that Stephen Tobolowsky is still in this movie for some reason.
But also, the first 15-20 minutes of the movie, it doesn't even come up that the switch happened before.
Yeah, they never say anything about the switch until that part in the trailer where you see Vanessa Bayer just kind of be like, oh, you two have walked in each other's shoes at some points.
And that's the first time they bring it up. Otherwise, you could argue that you don't need to see the first movie to know what's going on in this one.
Though it does help because it does make you remember this is exactly what you're in for. If you're into the very cookie cutter comedies of the early 2000s, if you're into the kind of stuff that's like this and various other comedies of this stripe, then you know what you're getting into.
But
this is not breaking new ground. This is not changing anyone's mind. If you're a big time snob,
especially mainstream comedy,
if the only way that you'll ever see like a mainstream comedy is if you think that it's about something deeper than just what these characters are doing or anything like that. And also, cringe humor is in here, so if you're not into cringe humor, then... But this is the kind of cringe humor that we can actually kind of get behind a little bit.
It's the kind we can stomach for a short dose.
Luckily, it comes in bursts and not just like wave after wave of, let's see if we can make Oscar winner Jamie Lee Curtis continue to grab old person supplies off the shelves at Walgreens.
Yeah. And it just kind of is a fun little... It's a very emotional movie, and it's a fun little ending, and I felt very verklempt at the ending of the movie and everything. And I just appreciated the fact that they didn't fall into the traps of a legacy sequel. Like, at the end, it feels like they're going to do exactly what they did in the first movie. And then suddenly they're like, nope, we're not going to do that. We're going to do something different.
The fact that they are like, we're going to do something similar, and then we're going to just kind of subvert it, and then we're just going to keep on going. This is a movie that's not afraid to take the beats of the old movie, play them up as much as possible, and then just kind of be like, okay, but now we're going to do our own thing for like a scene or two.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And also Chad Michael Murray is back.
Yeah, Chad Michael Murray, the man with 3 first names.
But either way, Freakier Friday is a nice little distraction, in the same way that the first movie was a nice little distraction.
Yeah. Is it great? Probably wouldn't say that. Is it better than the first one?
I probably wouldn't say that either.
It's about on par with it.
It's about the... Look, if you want 2 movies that are consistent in both form and function and quality, then you got it.
Yeah.
These are 2 movies that are very much in the same league. I don't hate myself for going to see this. I definitely feel like if in 20 years they feel like they've got enough gas in the tank for Freakiest Friday, then fine, go ahead, see where that goes.
I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis is going to be in her 90s by that point, so would she even want to do that? She's got gas in the tank now, but...
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason why she wouldn't want to, like, make a stretch in her 90s to just suddenly be like, hey, now great-grandma is swapping with the toddler. Or something like that. I don't know. I just kind of hope that this kind of works out. I mean, let's face it, the fact that it took 20 years to make this and they didn't like make a Freaky Friday sitcom on the Disney Channel is just kind of it's just the kind of thing that we can appreciate about the fact that this can be a quote-unquote franchise.
Yeah.
So, I think that's it for right now. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, leave a comment on what you may or may not have thought of Freakier Friday, and don't forget to tune in next time when, well, we don't know what's next, but...
The summer's over, and we're gonna be taking a little break, but we'll be back soon.
Yeah. So, bye.
Anyone else have any other notes?
Needs more racism.
Really, Charlie?
More gongs.
Needs more racism?
Everything punctuated with the gong. Gongs in every scene.
Gongs and taiko drums.